Every year around January 1st, something interesting happens. Motivation suddenly spikes. Gym parking lots fill up, people overhaul their planners, everyone's talking about goals, routines, and becoming the best versions of themselves. And this isn't random. There's actual behavioral science research showing that moments like the start of a new year act as a psychological reset button, a phenomenon called the fresh start effect. And today, I want to show you how to use that burst of momentum wisely, without falling into the traps that make most resolutions fail by February. In case you're new here, I'm Dr. Kelly Cosgrove, a habit expert and professional organizer. I help overwhelmed people build routines that actually stick using behavioral science and home organization strategies. Let's dive in. Researchers at the Wharton Business School introduced the term fresh start effect after noticing something fascinating. People were dramatically more likely to start pursuing their goals immediately after what they called temporal landmarks. These temporal landmarks included things like New Year's Day, birthdays, the beginning of a month, the beginning of a week, returning from vacation, and the start of a new school year or season. Why? Because these landmarks seem to create something like a mental chapter break. They signal, that was the old me, this is the new me. And that feeling of psychological separation from your past self boosts optimism, motivation, willingness to pursue changes, and a sense of renewal. This is why the new year feels so powerful. It's a socially shared moment of reinvention. We're all turning the page at the same time. But here's the key. The fresh start effect boosts motivation, not skill, not discipline, and not systems. And that's why so many New Year's goals fall apart. Let's break down why the burst of motivation is real and why it tends to fade so quickly. The fresh start effect gives you a real motivation boost because it creates a clean mental boundary between the old you and the new you. When you hit a temporal landmark like a new year, a birthday, or even a Monday, your brain naturally views it as a new chapter. That psychological reset makes your past slip-ups feel less relevant because they happened to the old you, and your future feels more alive with possibility. Suddenly, you have a sense of momentum, clarity, and permission to start again. It's your mind giving you a well-timed burst of optimism and motivation. And when it comes to the fresh start effect that happens at the start of a new year, there's also some interesting social contagion at play. Everyone is starting this fresh chapter in their lives at the exact same time. This can make this temporal landmark feel even more meaningful because there's some social norms built into the fresh start at the beginning of the year that seems to give people permission and greater confidence to pursue their goals. So the fresh start effect can be super powerful, but as most people know, the motivation doesn't tend to last. Motivation fades after the new year fresh start because the brain's initial surge of optimism isn't designed to last. It's designed to launch you. Once the excitement of a clean slate wears off, your habits run up against the same friction points that existed before. Unclear routines, environments that don't support your new habits, and systems that rely too heavily on willpower. Without structure to catch you after that motivational high, your brain defaults back to familiar patterns. The fresh start gives you the spark, but only strong systems keep the flame going. Another reason motivation often fades after a fresh start like the new year is that the goals we set don't actually match who we are or how we live. In that burst of New Year energy, it's easy to choose goals that are overly ambitious or based on a fantasy version of ourselves. But once real life kicks back in, those identity and consistent goals require constant effort to maintain, and motivation can't carry that load for long. When a goal doesn't feel like you or doesn't fit with your real life, your brain eventually rejects it, pulling you back toward familiar habits. The fresh start gives you momentum, but identity aligned realistic goals help you sustain it. Your environment also plays a big role in how the fresh start effect tends to fade after the new year. You can set inspiring New Year's goals, but if your home, routines, and daily cues still support your old habits, your motivation has to work overtime. And once that early year excitement dips, as it always does, your unchanged environment pulls you straight back into familiar patterns. It's not a lack of willpower, it's a lack of support. When your surroundings aren't set up to promote your new habits, friction builds, frustration rises, and the fresh start boost disappears. Aligning your environment with your goals is what turns short-lived motivation into long-term follow-through. So now that we've gone over why the fresh start effect tends to be short-lived, let's talk about how to harness that natural burst of motivation wisely so that it results in meaningful changes long-term. This is where we shift from inspiration to strategy. The first thing you want to do is make sure you're anchoring your goal to your identity. Fresh starts are a perfect moment to ask, who am I becoming? Rather than, what should I force myself to do? Identity creates staying power long after motivation fades. For example, instead of saying, I need to drink more water, you might say, I'm becoming someone who stays hydrated. Or instead of saying, I should work out, you might say, I'm becoming someone who moves her body every day. Instead of saying, I'm going to declutter the house, you might say, I'm becoming someone who lives in a calm, supportive environment. Goals that are rooted in identity make habits feel like alignment rather than punishment. The next thing you'll want to do is focus on using the fresh start momentum to build systems, not overly ambitious habits. During a fresh start, people often think, I feel good right now, let's overhaul everything. But fresh start motivation is emotional and fleeting. It's not sustainable fuel. Use this burst of motivation to build infrastructure rather than intensity. For example, declutter your pantry so healthy eating is friction-free, create a workout corner so your gear is always ready, put a morning lunch pad near the door for your keys, water bottle, and gym bag, or reorganize your desk so work sessions feel easier. You're essentially engineering an environment where your goals become the default. Using visible, intentional cues around your home to guide your behavior towards your new goals can be incredibly helpful. A water bottle on your desk reminds you to hydrate, your gym bag placed by the door nudges you toward movement. These cues take over when motivation quiets down, gently guiding your behavior, reducing the need for willpower, and keeping your goals front and center in your daily life. They turn your home into a partner in your habit change, not a barrier. If you'd like some guidance setting up your home to make your goals easier, make sure to grab my free Habit Boosting Home Checklist. It walks you through simple, science-backed tweaks you can make to your home to reduce friction, create clear cues, and set up your space so your habits basically run on autopilot. It's totally free, and it's a great way to make sure your environment is actually supporting the changes you're trying to make. You can grab it using the link in the description below. Setting your space up to support your goals like this is an important step in preparing for the inevitable dip in motivation that will come when the fresh start effect wears off. Because one of the smartest things you can do with the fresh start effect is to expect the dip in motivation and plan for it before it happens. That new year energy is meant to kick you off, not carry you forever. When you assume motivation will fade, you're more likely to build systems, cues, and tiny habits that keep you going when the excitement wears off. Instead of being surprised or discouraged by the dip, you can meet it with a plan. Simpler versions of your habits, supportive environments, and realistic expectations. Because behavior change is not about staying endlessly motivated, it's about designing your habits and environment so they keep you going even when your motivation doesn't. Now here's a little bonus tip to take advantage of your New Year motivation. Automate or simplify your high-value actions. For example, you could create meal templates for weekdays, pick your morning routine defaults, book workout classes or accountability sessions, set up auto refills for key items, or declutter areas of your home that create daily friction. Think of this as preparing your future self for success. As we wrap up, let's go over what a simple, actionable, fresh start plan might look like. First, choose one identity-based goal. Start with the statement, I'm becoming someone who. Next, decide on a tiny repeatable habit that's aligned with this goal. Make it something you can do even on your busiest days. Then, set up an environmental cue to support that habit. Keep it visible and easy. If you follow these steps, you'll stay consistent long after the January excitement wears off. If you found this video helpful, make sure to check out my recent video about how to rebuild self-trust using tiny habits. It's full of actionable advice on how to leverage the power of tiny habits to build consistency in your routines and prove to yourself that you're someone who follows through. I'll link that video on the screen here and in the description below.